Hey everybody, welcome back to Drinks and a Movie. Chris Hamker back with you, and today I'll be starting a new segment called Quick Shots. Now, Quick Shots are just a series of short reviews that I'm going to do. I'm going to try to fit like 3 or 4 movies into these one video, and I'm just do a quick little review of each. And these are movies that I might have missed in theaters, but are now out on Blu-ray or at Redbox or on demand. That if you're looking, you might see it. And here's what I think about them. So I'm going to first start off with Silence, and this is one of the movies that I was actually asked by a friend of mine to do, and it took me a long time to see it, but I'm finally seeing it, and I'm going to give a review of it. The review of that's going to be a little bit longer than the other ones, but just bear with me, and hopefully this won't be too long. So, Silence is directed by Martin Scorsese and written by Jay Cox along with Scorsese, and stars Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson. Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield star as 2 Portuguese Jesuit priests that travel to Japan to find Liam Neeson, who has gone missing and is reported to have renounced his faith publicly. So the question is, did I like it? Yes, I liked it quite a bit. It is beautifully shot. It was gorgeous. It's beautifully shot. It's expertly acted, and it deals with some very serious issues, both jarringly and very respectfully. I'm more of an agnostic myself, and the reason I say this is I think people with more of a faith-based life or more religious, they might get more out of this movie than I did. But the movie still does tackle really simple ideas in a very well done and respectful way. It deals with things like betrayal, fear, doubt, anger, and the basic ideas of Christianity and the Catholic Church, mainly confession. There's one character in particular that uses confession to his advantage. He thinks that he can do whatever he wants and then go to confession and have his sins absolved just because he asks for forgiveness. The thing is, even though confession can absolve you of your sins, you still have to be a good person at the end of the day. So unfortunately, I still have to look at this movie on a filmmaking perspective, and I think that's what my friend wanted me to do anyway, but this movie did have some problems. Scorsese loves voiceover and narration, but in this case, the narration was used to the film's detriment, and what I mean by that is that there were scenes that things were happening, and the characters were doing actions, but then the narration was just describing what was going on screen, and I don't think that's a very good use of narration. Just let me watch what's going on screen. You don't have to tell me what it is. Also, there's a problem with language in this movie, and what I mean by that is the main characters are supposed to be Portuguese, and they have accents. Okay, fine, but if you have accents, this means you're speaking English with a Portuguese accent. But the problem with that is when they get to China, I believe, in preparation to go to Japan, they mentioned that their guide speaks their language, but you don't know whether the guide is speaking Portuguese or English or what, because it's never conveyed. There's 2 movies that handle language really well, and they're both directed by John McTiernan. They're The Hunt for Red October and 13th Warrior. I know it sounds strange, but they're both really good movies. If you haven't had a chance to watch them, you should watch them. But they have one scene that transitions from the native language of the characters to English, and you know that the characters are speaking their language, but we're understanding them. It's conveyed very simply and very easily. I mean, another strange thing about language is that the Japanese spoken in the movie is all subtitled, but the main characters, once again, never speak Portuguese. They all just have this strange accent that comes and goes sometimes in Andrew Garfield's case. But if you're going to subtitle something, do it. I mean, Mel Gibson, no matter what you think of him, made 2 movies fully subtitled in their ancient languages, Apocalypto and The Passion of the Christ. And that was a very effective way to make that movie because you're immersed in that culture at that point. But other than that, like I said, I thought it was a beautiful movie, just not perfect. It's very long, maybe a little too long. The ending is kind of strange. The timeline gets a little weird at the end, but it's, I think, well worth the watch just visually. It's pretty astounding. So I'm going to give this movie 3 out of 5 drinks. So the next movie I'm going to talk about is The Edge of 17, directed by Kelly Freeman Craig, and stars Haley Steinfeld and Woody Harrelson, and is about a teenage girl just trying to figure things out in high school. I guarantee that high school age girls are going to get much more out of this movie than I did. It's not that I didn't hate it. I thought it was funny at times. It was very, poignant. It's sad at times, and had great performances by both Steinfeld and Woody Harrelson. My only problem with it is that I think the ending kind of had a little too convenient of a conclusion. It was a little too neat of a bow that it ended up with, and that just kind of bothered me. It was just like, oh, we're just going to make everything fine and then in the movie, and that was just kind of unrealistic when everything else seemed very realistic from that kind of teenage girl perspective. I'm going to also give this movie a 3 out of 5 drinks. Alright, so the next movie I'm going to talk about is Nocturnal Animals, written and directed by Tom Ford and stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, and Aaron Taylor Johnson, and is about, I don't even know how to describe this movie. I ended up hating this movie, and I'll tell you why. Alright, it's essentially about Jake Gyllenhaal's character, who's a writer now, wrote a book, sent his ex-wife Amy Adams this manuscript, and it's kind of about how he thought their lives would have gone if they'd have stayed together. And the first half hour is this really uncomfortable scene where these 3 country kind of hillbilly guys run Jake Gyllenhaal and his family off the road, and then proceed to kidnap his wife and child while they hold him down, and it's really uncomfortable, and I almost turned it off. So that happens, and then the rest of the movie is about him dealing with that, and Amy Adams just sitting there reading this book that she was sent. And then the movie doesn't end in a satisfying conclusion, and it just kind of ends in sort of, not even a cliffhanger, it just ends. And I was just left thinking, what the fuck did I just watch? So fuck that movie. Fuck you, Nocturnal Animals. Yeah, look, don't watch this movie unless you really want to be frustrated at the end. If you want to, I guess watch it. I really didn't like it. I'm giving this movie 1 drink out of 5. Lastly is Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. That is written and directed, hopefully for the last time with these movies, by Paul W.S. Anderson, and stars Mila Jovovich, once again killing zombies and trying to cure the T-virus. Sir Friendzone is back again as the big bad guy. Ali Larter is back as Claire. Is she back from the dead? Did she die in one of the previous movies? Who knows? There's really no way to know because nobody remembers anything from the previous movies. Look, this movie is luckily pretty short. It's got some decent action sequences. I'm convinced that the editor was paid by the edit because this movie is cut to shit. Sometimes you can't even tell what the fuck is going on. But it did have a pretty good action sequence in the middle of the movie with this building, and that was pretty decent. The ending was pretty clever. It's how they're kind of wrapping up the Mila Jovovich's storyline. That was pretty good. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. Go watch it. It's short. It's one of the better ones in the series, but that's really not saying much. Pretty low bar there. I'm going to give that movie 2.5 drinks out of 5. Hey, thanks so much everybody for joining me. I'm going to try to do a couple of these quick shots, videos to try to just catch up on some stuff I missed. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a drink on me. Cheers, everybody.